Greetings, greetings. Lawful, welcome. Sabek, Lawful, greetings, welcome. Hope everybody is doing well. Yeah, man, big up same way. Let's get this one open as well. We're gonna get started shortly. Oh, I almost forgot about this. So we are going to put our image in the background. Wait a minute, wrong image. That one. Right, today we are going to talk a little bit about the demerit point system. And if I could, let's see, if this one will work. Can I move it? Can't move that image. Let's see, what else we got? This one looks like something we can move. Nope. Oh la la. Alright. So we're just gonna go with the original one. Yeah. So we're gonna get into the discussion about demerit points. We're gonna talk about what it is and what can we do about it. Should it be something that keep us off the road? You know, months ago we heard Mr. Vaz. We heard Mr. Vaz talk about governance, lawful, greetings. We hear Mr. Vaz talking about the whole gas crisis, right? Now, we didn't hear anything else about it, but in regards to that, he did say that people should limit their driving and traveling on the road, right, to conserve gas so that, you know, other people can have gas and all that something, which again, I don't know if people are actually advising these ministers and these people before they come into the public making announcements, but none of these things actually make sense. Even if we have some people who decide to not travel as much, that doesn't mean there's going to be less usage of gas. It just don't make no form of sense. If me stop drive on the road because I can, and somebody else can't stop drive on the road because them have to go to work, them have to do this, them have to do that, what them to do? Taxi need for run, bus need for run, everything else need for run. So just because some people stop traveling as much, I mean, it might buy us a couple of days. What does that do? Gas is not gas for cars is not really necessary for life per se, right? If I did say cooking gas, no, the impact and stuff that would have, but we're not going to get too far away from that. It's just that many of these discussions and these suggestions that we hear, if we sit down and we actually think about what they're saying, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have the impact that it would have, from what they're talking about. Right, delivery need to be made to keep the country running too. That's true, but it is still going to finish. It is not something that is going to be like, oh, if you stop use it today, it's not like a solar panel and solar battery. So what are we really talking about, right? But anyways, that was one of the measures they were saying to keep people off the road so that we use less gas. All of a sudden, probably 2 months now, we're not hearing nothing about it, right? So apparently that is no longer a priority. Now, when we talk about the demerits point system, we hear the same narrative, right? Keeping certain people off the road, right? All right, first things first, before I even begin any of this discussion. As you know, I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney, I am not providing legal advice. Anything I say is my own opinions. If you learn something, good for you. And just for the record, I talk to myself. So you can't say, I give you advice or I give you instructions to do anything. We talk about a lot of topics over the years. Well, over the past year and a half, right? And I shared with you many remedies. There are people who often reach out to me, with thanks and, with questions and things like that, and sharing their success, sharing their journey and so forth. And it is always inspiring to hear someone, talk about how they handle their situation. That's what I am here to do. I am here to just teach you the information and you do with it what you please, right? I can't stop anybody from using the law. It is there. It is already there. And I'm not teaching nothing secret. I'm not teaching nobody nothing where you can't find on your own. I am simply just shining the flashlight in the place where you can go look for certain things, right? So, as it relates to the demerit point system, I'm going to start at the top. What is it? Now, before we can even ask that question, we have to ask ourselves, what is the driver's license? Remember I said I'm going to start from the top. All right? Grab your pen and your paper. If you're not a signatory, you will not be able to see the replay. So, for those of you who are already a signatory, you might not have to take out your pen and paper. But it is good because we don't know how long this live is going to be. So, it is always good to write things down and refer back to them later. What is the driver's license in the first place? The Constitution don't mention nothing about any form of license whatsoever. Eagle King, Lawful, greetings. The Constitution and the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms that was partially infused and amended into the Constitution, Order in Council 1962, mentions nothing about a license. And that is very significant. Why? Because that means that it was not of a concern at the time. It was not something that needed to be said in law. As much as up to 2011, when the last major amendment was implemented, the charter was implemented in 2011, right? There is still no mention of a license anywhere in the Constitution. So where does a license come from and why is it fundamental? Why is it something that we need to discuss before we even talk about the demerits point system? The license, as we know it, is what is called an adhesion contract. What does that mean? For those of you who have been on the platform before, you already know what that means, but we're going to break it down. We're going to go through the details. An adhesion contract is where one side of a contract is benefiting and the other side has no benefit. So it is an unbalanced and unequal contract, right? And we have those around us in many different forms, but we're going to talk about the license today. What benefit do you get? Right, it's an unfair contract. What benefit do you get from a license? You get something called a privilege. Now, this is important. The license grants a privilege to drive, right? That's what you might think. However, in the Constitution, Order in Council 1962, it specifically states that we have freedom of movement. And it is unbridled, meaning it is not a specific movement that you have the freedom to exercise. You can exercise any movement you see fit, as long as you don't violate the law and as long as you don't violate somebody else. So, if you have the freedom of movement, why do you need a license to move around? And we're going to get to the questions and the suggestions that a lot of attorneys and agents typically like to run to. We're going to get to them in a second, but stay with me. So you have the right to move around Jamaica freely, right? The Supreme Court, in many different cases, the most famous one is Hemans versus Attorney General, where Justice Batts specifically stated in his commentary that the citizen is still free to move about Jamaica without carrying a pass. Right? A matter of fact, as you know, I like to show you where these things come from. So it is not just me talking. You don't just have a talking head, right? Let us show you some of the evidence of this. We went through this before, but this is necessary to get to the whole demerits points conversation. Okay? So let us pull up Hemans versus AG, where Justice Batts. Let us take a look at the computer, right? All right. So here we're at the computer, right? We have Hemans versus Attorney General. All right. So when you scroll down, you know, it is a little bit of a lengthy discussion where the judge is explaining and giving the details of what transpired at the trial, right? So here we have on section paragraph 58 of the ruling, right? It says, the reasonable cause to suspect that an individual has or is about to commit a crime must relate to peculiar characteristics of the person or the vehicle he is driving or the manner in which it is operated or to information received. And this, again, is just memorializing what is already in the Constabulary Force Act. Let me show you what we're talking about. Let us go back here. The Constabulary Force Act. Right? If we go to section 13, which again, many of you already know. Section 13 says, let's zoom in a little bit so everybody can see. The duties of the police under this act shall be to keep watch by day and by night, to preserve the peace, to detect crime, apprehend or summon before a justice persons found committing any offense or whom they may reasonably suspect of having committed any offense or who may be charged with having committed any offense. So it is always in relation to evidence. Always. It is never somebody just a look upon you and say you look like criminal or you look like you break the law. That is not how the law works. Anytime police action or any kind of criminal proceedings have started, it must have evidence to start out with, right? So, Injustice Bat's ruling here is simply repeating in a different way or summarizing what is already in the Constabulary Force Act, right? Or to information received. In Jamaica, the citizen is free to move about without an obligation to carry a pass and is not to be subject to arbitrary or random search. This is still a constitutional guarantee. This ruling is still in effect. It has not been overruled and it can still be used even in your case, right? So it is clear. Here it said the citizen is free to move about without an obligation to carry a pass. Now, the question is, if you don't have the driver's license, right? If you don't have the driver's license and the police stop you, what happens? Do you get a ticket? Do you get arrested? Do you get summons? What happens if someone is traveling in a car? Excuse me. What happens if someone is traveling in a car and they do not have a driver's license at all? Them no get no permit, them no register for none, them no apply for nothing, them no go through tax office and get TRN and RERE, them no do none of that. Them no have no driver's license whatsoever. What happens? You get harassed. You get dragged into the legal system for not having a driver's license. So that is now equivalent to a pass. You are now obligated to carry a pass or a driver's license, or else you will be dragged through the legal system, and more than likely they still would not be able to charge you under the Road Traffic Act. But if you are not aware of your rights and how you can defend yourself, they will still charge you under the Road Traffic Act and regulations, which should only apply to those who have a license. But in reality, that is not necessarily what happens. They will still bring you through the judicial system because they know that you don't know how to sue them. Unlike Mr. Heemans here, who got an attorney to sue the AG and, mind you, win. He won about 3.5 million in total. I'm sorry, 2.8. So general damages, he won 2.6 million, and special damages, he won 219,000, right? So when you have certain situations, you can sue and you can win. Anyways, we're not harp on that. The point here is this. You are not obligated to carry a pass as a constitutional guarantee or a constitutional recognized protection. The Constitution, in case you didn't know, for those who are new here, the Constitution does not grant you any rights. So when you hear the term constitutional rights, Denise, Lawful, greetings. Yeah, man, I was occupied with the constitutional draft. So when you hear the term constitutional rights, there is no such thing. The Constitution grants us no rights. The Constitution grants protections. It grants recognition. It guarantees that these rights can be vindicated. The only problem is the Constitution, Order in Council 1962, has no teeth. It has no teeth. What does that mean? It means that it just lists out a bunch of things and there are no enforcement mechanisms. This is why we have Parliament keep making laws every single year. And as a matter of fact, they can't even keep up with the current list and body of law that is currently there, and they keep on making more laws. This is a perfect example, right? Where we will have, let us bring back the image here. This whole demerit point system, right? This has been in the 2018 Road Traffic Act for 8 years. For 8 years, this demerit point system has already been in the Road Traffic Act, and it is only now, it is 8 years later, they are now deciding to enforce it. And as a matter of fact, it is so stringent that just about anyone having two simple tickets, you now become a criminal if you go back around the wheel where your license has accumulated more than 10 points. Just two, right? What is a demerit point? A demerit point is a made up attribute of your driver's license. A demerit point has nothing to do with driving. It has nothing to do with traveling. It has nothing to do with your private life. It has nothing to do with crime. It has nothing to do with your driver's license. What does it do? Why was it even implemented in the first place? They are copying the road legislations from other jurisdictions, like the United States, like England, like Canada. These are the places that have demerit points for serious offenses, right? They are copying that system over to Jamaica. The demerit points cannot go on your license. It is a completely separate record. If you're a criminal based on this, will this affect your police record? Absolutely. A matter of fact, did you know that if a warrant is issued for your arrest, like a bench warrant is issued for a traffic ticket that you did not answer to, that is a criminal record? And when I used to tell people, well, you see, when I just started out, I used to make videos and explain that traffic tickets are criminal offenses. And you have to see the amount of people in the comments that had no idea. And they would argue. And even when we show that you can go to jail, people are still in denial. Even when the Chief Justice came out and said traffic tickets are criminal offenses, people still come back out again and say traffic tickets are not criminal. But anyways, let us get back to our demerit points conversation. The demerit points is not a part of the driver's license contract. It is a separate data record. Let us talk about that. The driver's license, as they have said, comes with no demerit points. It starts at 0, and you basically accumulate demerit points as you break the law. Now, we talked about this before. If we are going to say traffic tickets are criminal offenses, right? How is it that I can pay for a criminal offense to be expunged, or to be discharged, or to be eliminated? How is it that I am classified as a criminal, but yet still I can pay money and you can say, all right, I forgive you, go along. You pay your money, all right, go along. So if you don't have the money, what happens? You literally get thrown in jail. It might be for a couple of days, it might be for a week. For some people, you're unlucky. You might have to be there for a month. If you don't have the money, be sure that you know that you will go to jail. If you show up to court and you either plead guilty or you're found guilty and you cannot pay, make no mistake, in case you didn't know. This is why all of these matters that are listed in the Road Traffic Act of 2018 and the Road Traffic Regulations, they have what's called summary jurisdictions being given to the court. So anything where you do where them can write a ticket for, you're basically under the jurisdiction of the court because of your driver's license. Right? So now we have, and again, I went over this with tickets and all these things already. The ticket itself is what's called a transformative document. So let's say you are traveling down the road and say, well, you never stop at the stoplight there. Failure to stop at stop sign, $15,000. Whatever it is, right? Now, I'm going to share something with you. And ready? Drop a 1 in the chat if you're ready for gem number 1. Now that we have covered the basics, if you're ready for the gems, drop a 1 in the chat. All right. First things first. I have said this many times. A traffic ticket is first a civil document. Keep that in mind. A traffic ticket, when it is first issued, it is a civil document, regardless of what happens when you go to court. Before you get to court, the ticket is a civil document. What it is doing is it is offering you the opportunity to pay. And if you don't pay, then you have the penalty or the consequence of having to go to court for the prosecution to prove that you are guilty of the accusation. So, if between the 30 days of you getting the ticket and going to court, if it is a civil matter, did you know that you have control over that ticket? Did you know that you have control over the ticket before it gets to court? What does that mean? If you feel that your rights are violated because of the issuance of the ticket, because the ticket, again, is a prosecutory document. It is something that is used to prosecute you for a crime. Offenses are considered crimes. They are just tricking your brain so you don't think of it as serious when you hear offense. But when you hear crime, you are being accused of committing a crime. Okay? This is why it's called a criminal offense. How do you control the ticket while it is in its civil phase? You can actually, again, if you feel that your rights were violated. For example, your freedom of movement was being violated by the request of a driver's license. Remember, you know, the Constitution itself says you are free to move about. You have the freedom of movement. Let us bring it up. Right? Let us bring up the Constitution so that we speak lawfully. Jamaica Constitution, or the Charter of Fundamental Rights. We're going to bring up the original one. Right? So let us take a look at the Charter. And we're going to talk about our remedy. We're going to talk about remedies. Where is our menu? Come on. Yeah. All right. So here we have the amendment that integrates part of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms into the Jamaica Constitution. Right? All right. So I'm going to get back to some other things, but let us get to the main sections of what we're talking about. All right? So we have freedom of the person. We have freedom of property, freedom, right to due process, freedom of religion, status, marriage, whatever. So freedom of the person, we should have freedom of movement, right? Due process and person. Property. All right, so here we have freedom of the person. Let me see if we can zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're talking about. All right. Movement, or your ability to move from place to place within Jamaica, is called a liberty. It is a liberty right. Right? No person shall be deprived of his liberty except on reasonable grounds and in accordance with fair procedures established by law in the following circumstances. In consequence of his unfitness to plead to a criminal charge, in the execution of a sentence. So this is all in relation to court. Right? See, say, no person shall be deprived of his liberty except on reasonable grounds and in accordance with fair procedures established by law. So that means that the court is automatically implicated as being involved when we talk about a violation or a restriction or a suppression of a right. He said, in the consequence of his unfitness to plead to a criminal charge, in the execution of the sentence or order of a court, in execution of an order of the Supreme Court. Go again, in the execution of the order of the court, for the purpose of bringing him before a court, in the execution of a court order, the arrest or detention of a person for the purpose of bringing him before a competent legal authority, right? On reasonable suspicion of having committed an offense or where it is reasonably necessary to prevent him committing an offense. Again, this goes hand in hand with the Constabulary Force Act. Right? In the case of a person who has not attained the age of 18 for the purpose of his care and protection, detention of the person, arrest and detention, blah, blah, blah. Right? Now, if we go over to the Constitution, all right, this one I really have it. Right? In the Constitution itself, it talks about the Queen's Peace, and it also talks about it in the Constabulary Force Act. If we go up to Section 4, where it talks about the oath, right? This is what all the constables are supposed to take an oath to. Right? Where it's talk about, it says, I swear that I will well and truly serve our sovereign lady the Queen. Enough of them claim say them not take this. The oath of them take say, them take an oath to the people of Jamaica. Anyways, we're not going to get into that tonight. In the office of constable, without favor or affection, malice or ill will, that I will see and cause her majesty's peace to be kept, right? And preserved. So, in keeping the Queen's peace, you cannot be stopping anybody upon the road. That is not keeping the peace. That is a violation of the right to privacy, right? The right to privacy in your property, right to privacy in your home, right to privacy everywhere. So, when we talk about, for example, the freedom of movement, like what Justice Batts was describing in his ruling in Hemans versus Attorney General, right? The first thing is that the Constitution is the ceiling. Everything has to be compared to the Constitution, not the other way around. So when you have a right, the right must be recognized first. The right must be recognized first before anything else takes place, right? So, when you have a violation of a right, you can take that matter to the Supreme Court. So if you feel your right is being violated when you get issued a ticket, you can now file a case in the Supreme Court right away. That put a monkey wrench in everything. Because if a matter is before the Supreme Court, it cannot be adjudicated in the parish court at the same time, especially if it is related. Did you know that? So if I got a ticket today, I can file a claim in the Supreme Court this coming week, and that matter cannot proceed in the parish court until my rights have been restored or the case complete in the Supreme Court. Rights violations or rights complaints trump everything else, as long as you don't have an unaliving of someone where it is not treated as, you know, a very serious criminal offense. All right. Greetings, Fred. Lawful, welcome. So now, the demerit points problem. Do you help to file a case? No. I do not take consultations, and I do not necessarily teach anyone how to put together their case file and so forth. No. If you want to learn how to do it on your own, you can become a signatory. Right? Where is the Supreme Court? You can Google it, Supreme Court of Jamaica. Right? You can Google the Supreme Court of Jamaica, and it is in Kingston. What if I ask you? I'm not sure what that means. Georgia eviction coach. Lawful, welcome. Is paying for a ticket twice a violation of my rights? Yeah, it is a taking of your property. Absolutely. So back to our demerit points thing, to help me file a case if I have one. No. Like I said, if you're a signatory, let us segue a little bit. Just a little bit. If you want to become a signatory, you would have to go to voiceofjamaica.com. Okay? When you're on voiceofjamaica.com, there is a menu item called signatory. It has details on the page to let you know why you would want to become one and what you would have to do to become one. Okay? So I don't necessarily teach anyone or handhold anyone to actually put together all your documents and so forth to file a case. You would have to learn how to do it on your own, and therefore you don't have to come back to me to tell you to do this and do that. If you want someone to do it for you, you would have to go to an attorney, right? Kimar, Lawful, greetings. Well, you know, sometimes people are interested in things. Now, again, I am just stating the possibilities. I am not telling anyone to go do anything. All right? If you find it so useful that you want to go to, you know, the lengths to advocate for your rights, then it is possible. It is possible. It is not necessarily super hard. It is just intricate. You just have to know the rules and what you need to do. All right? So, back to our demerit points conversation. That is our first option. Now, remember, as it relates to demerit points, let us talk about that a little bit. The demerit points, again, is not a license attribute. That is something that came along. Should I block out the comments then? Osh. The demerit points is something separate from the license. The license don't come with demerit points. So it is basically just keeping data tabs on the individual. It has nothing to do with so-called licensing, right? It also caused my license to be suspended for a year at the National Arena. That ticket I already paid for. And again, you know, there are measures that one can take, and we're going to go through some of those. So one of the first things is that demerit points. We have had Tom and Jerry Police Africa play with me because I now work with them on demerit points. All right, so we have had from 2018, right? 2018, the law went into effect, and demerit points has been a part of the law since then. If I was going to contest any traffic ticket as it relates to demerit points, my first contention is this. The law has been in place from 2018. from 2018 up to 2026, all of the people who would have had points deducted or being in some way administratively applied to their license, that has not happened. So now I am being discriminated against. How come everybody else gone through the gate and right now you are actually now penalizing me after everybody gone through the gate? That is discrimination. 100%. If you are going to implement the demerit point system, you have to apply it to everybody from 2018 up to now. So that means that everybody where they are road, if you ever get 2 tickets or more, you have to come off a road right now just like me. There is absolutely no way you can have a law in place for this long and you just decide now, say, and now, yeah man, we're going to enforce it now. Yeah man, we're going to call in everybody now so you can address the matter and get your things sorted out before the demerit points things start out. Kem, lawful, greetings. But it was a trick. It was a very crafty trick because you show up claiming or thinking that you were going to be treated fairly and all you had to do was pay your ticket. And then when you get there, they start telling you that there are other penalties. Some people, they take away their license. Some people then tell them, say, them can't drive, them suspended, then this, then that. It was not as simple, just pay the ticket. That is discrimination. You cannot treat people differently when it comes to the law. And if that happens, that is a Supreme Court matter again. That is a violation of your right to equal treatment under the law. And there is no way, absolutely no way, anyone can claim that there has been equal treatment under the law by arbitrary exercise of this demerit point system at this point in time. It has been 8 years since 2018 to 2026. John, lawful, greetings. So, that if I was challenging any of these tickets, that is my first contention. Discrimination, and I am claiming my right to equal protection under the law. Them ticket they can't enforce. None at all. The law have to go change. There is something called an ex post facto law. That is what this becomes now. You see, by the activation of this system of demerit points, the Road Traffic Act of 2018 have now become something called an ex post facto law. Matter of fact, we're going to pull it up because I don't want you to take my word for it. So we're going to pull up Google. And we can also pull it up in the legal dictionary as well. We're gone. Ex post facto law. I'm going to show you something. How do we get rid of this? All right, here we go. Matter of fact, I could go to Google. This is a Microsoft. An ex post facto law, Latin for from a thing done forward, is a law that retroactively changes the legal consequences of an action. In the United States, it specifically refers to criminal statutes that retroactively punish conduct that was legal when committed, increase penalties, or alter evidence rules to the disadvantage of the accused, or to disadvantage the accused. You cannot punish some people and then other people already gone through the gate. There is no fixing it. The demerit point system cannot be fixed. it cannot be fixed. If, for whatever reason, they start implementing this thing, it is a complete defense of a violation of the Charter of Fundamental Rights. Excuse me. Or Chapter 3 of the Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962. All right? So, those are two things so far with this whole demerit point system that cannot stand in law. All right? So, in addition to that, if we now take notes, in addition to that, let us take a look at the road traffic regulations. All right? So this is the road traffic regulations talking about demerit points. Section 164. All right? It says, and as you can see on the screen, where a person has not accumulated demerit points such that the suspension of the license is warranted, each demerit point shall expire after a period of 15 months. Right? Each demerit point shall expire after 15 months. Where a driver's license has been suspended as a result of the accumulation of demerit points by the authority in accordance with Section 32 of the Act, the notice of the suspension issued to the holder of the license pursuant to Section 32(2) of the Act shall be in the form set out as Form S in Part A of the third schedule. For those of you who have had your driver's license taken away or suspended immediately, were you provided with a notice? Were you given a Form S? Let us go down and see where it says schedule of the Part A of the third schedule. So somewhere down here. So Part C, Part B, 13th schedule. We're gone too far. Let us look for the third schedule. What schedule is this? Fourth schedule. All right, so the third schedule there. Third schedule. Part A. This is what the notice is supposed to be like. Evidence certificate. What else them have here, so? Truck sketch, wait. Form SR, training. Make sure we have the right one. Driving instructor certificate. Application for driving certificate. Form S. Notice. Here is what the notice should look like. Did you receive a Form S? Right? If your license is going to be suspended, if you notice it says stamp of the Island Traffic Authority, signature of the certifying officer, the demerit points calculation, TRN, name and address. So all of this has to be, a matter of fact, this entire notice has to be printed out and given to anyone who is going to have their license suspended. It has to be mailed to you. It cannot even be handed to you. According to the regulations, it has to be mailed. Question, can your driver's license be suspended on the roadside or through the court system? The constable does not have the power to suspend your license. It has to be through the court system and the Island Traffic Authority. Right? According to the Road Traffic Act and regulations, it has to be through the court system. He said, this is to advise, in accordance with Section 32 of the Road Traffic Act of 2018, that your driver's license has been suspended effective this date for this amount of months, for accumulation of demerit points as a result of your committing the following offenses. Again, they are saying you committed crimes. That is why your driver's license is suspended. Right? So you have the calculation, blah, 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 date of expunged points. So then tell you how much points you accumulate and when the points are supposed to expire. You are hereby required to attend the nearest office of the Island Traffic Authority within 20 days of the date of this letter to surrender your driver's license. So the court is not supposed to take your driver's license. The police is not supposed to take your driver's license. You are supposed to go to the Island Traffic Authority within 20 days. And immediately cease driving a motor vehicle until your period of suspension ends. So, the court doesn't have the power to be taking any property. The police does not have any power to be taking any property. It is the Island Traffic Authority that has the power to do this, and it is also signified by the stamp that is required on the form. You see on the left side here it says stamp Island Traffic Authority, and on the right it says signature of certifying officer, Island Traffic Authority. The notice under that says the Road Traffic Act allows you to appeal your suspension before the Road Traffic Appeal Tribunal. Should you wish to make such an appeal, you are required to lodge such appeal with the tribunal within 14 days of receipt of this notice. You are hereby advised that it is an offense to drive a motor vehicle while your driver's license is suspended, and failure to respond to this notice could result in revocation of your driver's license. Right? So, whenever you have notices like these, it has to be sent through the mail unless they can prove that you were served in person. We're going to get around to that, Owen. Owen says, isn't the driver's license like the passport is the property of the government? That is correct. It is not yours. And we have had discussions about this in previous live sessions where people are thinking that just because your name appears on the driver's license, it is yours. That is incorrect. On any document, and the driver's license is also a document. On any document, the owner is typically at the very top of the document. Right? And on top of that, let us look at the Road Traffic Act. Let us look at the Road Traffic Act. Right? I think it's section 20. So a person shall not drive a motor vehicle on the road unless the person is the holder . A person shall not drive a motor vehicle on a road unless the person is a holder of a permit or a driver's license. Just like the license, just like your land title, just like anything that you register with the government, you are the holder. Penergy says, how will they know when you receive the documents? They don't. They just mail it to you, and they have something called a certificate of mailing. So they know when they sent it out. So they typically give you 30 days to receive it at whatever address you provided on your license. Right? So they give you 30 days even though they say 20. So the driver's license is not yours. You are simply holding it. You're the holder. You are permitted. You are exercising a privilege by holding the driver's license. Exactly, a bank account as well. You are the holder of a bank account, right? Account holder. It means that you have no ownership rights. Now, quick question. Exactly, Lanto. Quick question, father and mother out there. If the law says that the driver's license that, let's say I acquire a driver's license and I carry it around with me, right? For fear of being harassed and threatened and dragged through the legal system, I carry around a driver's license. If that is the case and I am simply the holder, then who is the owner? Why doesn't it have the owner listed on the thing? That is question number one. If I am simply the holder, why isn't the owner listed? Because if I am not the owner, then how comes the demerit points affecting me? How comes I have to pay the ticket? How comes I have to pay the insurance? How comes I can go to jail for something I don't own? There's a more question than answer. Because you are second in command. Me just ask. Exactly, Kimar. Okay. If I am second in command, right? That means that I am employed. Where is the information supporting my employment? Where is my paycheck? Where is the compensation for my employment? Am I a slave? Well, the contract part, we can say, well, fine, it is the driver's license contract. The application that you submitted creates the presumption of a performance contract, right? If I am being considered an employee, or if I am being considered someone exercising a privilege, right? That means that it is the owner, it is the issuer, it is the property owner that is liable for all charges. So if I am dragged into court as second in command, I am misidentified. Can we argue that in court instead of accepting a charge? I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney, I am not providing legal advice. Anything I say is my own opinions. If you learn something, good for you. I can't tell anyone what to do. I am simply pointing out the obvious things that are there. I'm not teaching you anything secret, right? I am simply showing you what you also have access to. You can Google any one of these documents. You have the license in your possession. You can look at it. Look at your driver's license. We talked about this before. Send it back to the owner. You are doing voluntary work, no pay. That is a good question because work without pay is illegal in every country. Let us say that again. Unless we have a specific voluntary contract written, work without pay is illegal in every country. Slavery is illegal. Involuntary servitude is illegal. Our Google don't work like yours. Hey, you see Yukimar? Oh gosh. Well, continue use Google until it work like mine. See? There is nowhere that allows slavery, work without pay, because work is energy. As a matter of fact, as we depend on the topic, did you know that your labor is not a commodity of commerce, and therefore your labor cannot be taxed because you cannot ever have a gain? You cannot gain from your labor. It is an even exchange. You work, in exchange for the work, you get paid. In order to tax something, the tax has to be on the gain, the ascension to wealth, the plunder. That is what you pay taxes on. You can't pay tax on something that has an equal exchange. I wasn't asking a question. I was saying because if I am not the owner needs to be involved. That's true. I mean, again, the court will only consider what you bring before it. Again, the court will only consider matters that is brought before it. The court is not going to say, well, all of your rights are activated. Signatories, I don't know what we are talking about already, right? The court is not going to say, well, all right, you have these protected rights over here that is recognized by the Constitution. So anybody who bring a claim, they have to prove that they are not in violation of your rights. The court is not going to do that. The court not advocate for nobody. As a matter of fact, sometimes, well, I'm not going to go there. So you have to know how to argue your case. You have to know how to present your case. You have to know how to bring it in front of a lawful court. You see, because I really want to go into too much hot water. I'm not going to go too far with the court thing. But that being said, all of these questions are relevant to this demerit points activation of the law. There is also something in law called failure to prosecute. Have you ever heard that term before? Failure to prosecute. It means that where there is a crime or where there is evidence to support a crime and the prosecution fails or decides not to prosecute, that is a violation of the law. So if for the past 8 years the state has failed to prosecute and implement and use the demerit point system all this time, that is an example of a failure to prosecute. Yes, when they can't find enough evidence. You know, our criminal justice system has departed away from presumption of innocence. The charter under section 16 says everyone is presumed innocent, right? 16.5. Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until he is proved guilty or has pled guilty. See, that's why it's been on the table for so long, because they know it's tricky. You know, if you have listened to Justice Batts recently, where he's addressing this demerit point system and all of that, you notice he says the courts are enforcing it because the law says shall. And shall means must, right? If shall means must, let us take a look at the Constitution, because again, the Constitution is the ceiling, right? Everything has to measure up. Yes, I'm sorry. Chief Justice Sykes said that shall means must in accordance with the law, right? So here in section 16.5 of the Charter, amended to the Constitution, says every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until he is proved guilty or has pled guilty, right? It also says every person charged with a criminal offense shall be informed as soon as is reasonably practicable in a language which he understands of the nature of the offense charged. Now, this is rather interesting, you know, because you see, when you have these sections of law, so if shall means must, why are they asking for please? Because they know that people will disregard their rights and start follow what it is the court tell them to do. Right? When we have these things, where it says every person charged with a criminal offense, you see, you don't know that you are being charged when you get a ticket. All you know is that you get one ticket and them tell you to go pay. Right? All you know is that you get a ticket and you either pay or you go to court. You're not realizing that you are being charged. And if you are being charged before the evidence is laid before the court, that cannot be a part of due process. You see, these provisions, you know, they are there for a reason. And when you have things like the Road Traffic Act and regulations, where you have a penalty before you get to court, it is always a violation of your rights, because you have no way to defend against a ticket. Imagine you are accused and you have no trial, you have no defense, you have no way to argue the case, you have no way to present any facts, you have no way to cross-examine the witness, you have nothing except the ticket to show that you have been prosecuted by the constable for whatever the case may be. And now, being that you are prosecuted, the only option you have is to pay for the crime or to figure out another way to handle the matter, which is always, all roads lead to court. Let us say that again. All roads lead to court. So you can't run from it. Right? The law said there shall be a trial in a reasonable time. What is a reasonable time? I guess you're saying I am before the court. Reasonable time can be reasonable to one person, but not to the next. But the law also says you have a right to a speedy trial. Again, like we spoke about earlier, just because the Constitution recognizes rights, it does not have any teeth. So you have to activate those rights. So in a language he understands, mean patois or native tongue. Well, here's the first problem. The ticket is not written in plain language. It is written in legalese. Right? The terms that are used on the ticket You think you understand what is on there, but you don't. Because the ticket is a legal document. It is not common sense document. It is not something you sit down and read and talk about each day. So as much as you might think it in English, it is not. It is in legalese. So why we can't speak patois in a court? You can attempt to speak patois in court, but that is going to be rejected by the colonial courts. They don't allow that. Let's see here. They speak legalese where a common man don't understand that it is unlawful. Exactly. From day one, it's crap. Them charge you by giving you a ticket without you even being tried at the court. That is correct. You are prosecuted first. And when you go to court, you are actually appealing the ticket. You are not actually challenging the charge. The same system that says innocent until proven guilty or plea holds for days. Court is the only place one can get redress or restitution for damages. Right. Then that's a violation of the right. Yeah, violation of the right to due process. So when we look at these provisions, right? When we look at these things that are written in so-called law, we talk about this before, you know, people. You see, the people who did a shy away before, they might say, me not go to court, me just go pay the ticket. Guess what? If you pay the ticket, the demerit points are still assessed against your driving record. Let me repeat for the people at the back. Even if you pay the ticket, the points them still accumulate. So at this point, it no make no sense. You try run go pay a ticket and being lazy. If you not start learn, enough people are going to get locked up. Enough people are going to start get locked up. Because if you not learn and start challenge the ticket them, guess what? The points them are going to keep accumulating. It is no longer a matter of, oh, me just going to pay the ticket. That's not how it is working anymore. As soon as you go on 10 points or more, problem. Is not this breach of our rights? What rights? The driver's license is a ticket. It is not about rights. If you accept the privilege, then you cannot complain about rights. This is about contract law. This is commercial law. I am before the court from 2021 and will go back in 2027. Is this reasonable time in law? Again, reasonably is relative. You cannot use reasonable time to determine anything. Unless you're talking about a specific case, which again, it all depends on what is happening. If nothing happened in the span of the 6 years, then yeah, that might be considered unreasonable. But then again, if the court has a justification for it, like them would have said we have backlog of cases, this and that, blah, 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 it might not be considered unreasonable if they are overflowing with cases. Some of these laws make no sense to take our license. Here's another interesting tidbit. Right? I guess high-speed chase will soon become a thing in Jamaica. You better move with the speed of gun, the beast. Hey, let me stop it, yeah? All right. So, let us take a look at another provision of law. The Justice of the Peace Jurisdiction Act. Let's see if I can find that document. The Justices of the Peace Jurisdiction Act. All right. Alright, so I think it's section 84. Alright, talk about damages. Or paragraph 84. Can we get there? '86, '85. '84. Nope, this not look like it. '84 on second peeps. '84. So here we have a section. We have a section of the Justice of the Peace Jurisdiction Act, right? It says damages. For those of you who are possibly going to think about going to court, you have to become familiar with some of the different legislation that may apply to your case. This is the Justices of the Peace Jurisdiction Act, Section 84. In all cases where the plaintiff in any such action shall be entitled to recover, and he shall prove the levying or payment of any penalty or sum of money under any conviction or order as parcel of the damages he seeks to recover, or if he prove that he was imprisoned under such conviction or order and shall seek to recover damages for any such imprisonment, he shall not be entitled to recover the amount of such penalty or sum so levied or paid, or any sum beyond the sum of 2 cents as damages for such imprisonment, or any costs of suit whatsoever, if it shall be proved that he was actually guilty of the offense of which he was convicted, or that he was liable by law to pay the sum he was so ordered to pay, and with respect to such imprisonment, that he had undergone no greater punishment than that assigned by law for the offense of which he was so convicted, or for non-payment of the sum he was so ordered to pay. What all of this mean? This means, if you bring a case to the Supreme Court, you are entitled to recover any money where you spend in regards to defending or challenging the case that was thrown out against you or that you prevailed in. Is it possible to surrender our driver's license and birth certificate and become a maroon? I would not suggest that. Of course it is possible. You can return anything. You can find out, like call, the Island Traffic Authority. You can call the Minister of constitutional affairs, you can call any one of the places and find out how you return documents, right? And you can return them. Now, what you do after that is your choice. But, you know, for people who are going down that rabbit hole, I would suggest you do some research and reading on how you would proceed with life after you do that. Because doing such a thing is a drastic measure. And it is not reversible. If you return a contractual document and that document you demand that it be cancelled, you have to realize that you're going to have to go back through the regular procedures as anyone else who doesn't have the document. So for example, if you give up your driver's license and you tell them to cancel it, and they do, if you ever want another driver's license, you are going to have to reapply again. Go get a permit, pass all the tests and do whatever else and get back the license, right? So you have to be careful about some of these things that you might think about doing. So this provision in this document allows anyone who was falsely imprisoned or falsely prosecuted to reclaim any damages that were not justified, right? So if, for example, you get one ticket and you know say ticket of foolishness, you can, after the case is dismissed, you can actually demand that the judge impose penalties and damages to be awarded to you for your costs, right? The judge don't have to listen to you, but it's a good chance the judge will say, well, what do you have to show that you incurred these costs, right? And if you have any receipt or whatever else, or bank statement, whatever, you can get your costs back, right? Yeah, man, Anthony, Lawful, thanks for joining. What to do if the judge no listen? You document and you document. You write things down. You let the judge know if you are going to pursue appeal. Let the judge know, you know, I will be appealing this case, or I will be bringing this matter to the Supreme Court, and I am going to need a copy of the record, right? And you proceed that route. You don't argue with the judge. Can you record the judge? It is probably not going to be admissible evidence, so it wouldn't be beneficial to do that as far as evidence is concerned. If one never wants any of those in the first place, why would you go back through the pro? Well, you see, when we talk about some of these things, right? What if the court not keeping records? Ah, la, la. The court has to have a record. If there was a ticket, especially if you have your copy, and let's say you want to go to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court or wherever, if you have evidence to show that you have showed up to that court and they don't have a record, that can be very disturbing, to say the least, when you get to the appellate level, whether the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals. It can be devastating for them, because now you can claim anything. You know that you've been there, you have a record to show that you have gone through the court, that, you know, let's say the case was dismissed. You are supposed to go back and get a physical copy of the dismissal. Nobody should leave court without a record. Nobody. You see, if any of this is happening, the law provides for record keeping, record issuance, and so forth. If there is no record, then that is discrimination again. That is violation of equal protection under the law, violation of equal access to the law, etc., etc. Of course, the devastation is always going to be in your benefit, because you are wrongfully convicted in the first place, or wrongfully prosecuted. So when you go after your case, if the case does not show any deliberation, any notes, any kind of proceeding that happened, then again, it is always against the state, right? Anytime you have an adverse proceeding against the state, it is always to our benefit, right? But like we've talked about many times, the reason why we keep on facing these problems is because, and we don't come together for anything. We have to be in pain. We have to be in such discomfort for people to actually use that as an avenue to come together. If we don't have pain and discomfort, enough people no business. They want to be entertained. They want to come on TikTok. And they want to hear the latest news. And they want to agree. They want to do all kind of things. But when we talk about let's come together and do this, them sit down and then look, then tap like, and them scroll. But the time is coming. And me not blame people, you know, because again, if we don't see a clear part of how something is going to work, people are not going to gravitate towards it, right? How does it benefit me? But the time is coming. The time is coming. And it is only because the law is set up to benefit a colonial structure. That is the reason why we're facing all of these problems right now. The law is not set up to benefit the people. It is there to benefit the agents of the state or the crown. Because all of the oaths are still to the crown. It is not to the people of Jamaica. So that is a fundamental problem that we're going to jump over that hurdle. But again, when we talk about demerit points, we've been over several things, right? The first thing is, it has been 6 years where the law was not enforced. So any kind of enforcement is now considered arbitrary. You cannot just get up and just start, all right, we're going to start right here, so, and we're going to start suspend driver's license. We're going to start add demerit points. Some people might all have 100 demerit points. Imagine you get all 5 tickets. All 100 points upon your license. You can't get that crap back for now. 1 year, I want to say 15 months. Imagine they implement it now, and you didn't have ticket from when, and all of a sudden, you can't drive go work, you can't go get some gas, you can't go nowhere in peace, because if the police stop you and them say driver's license, me not tell nobody say if you speed off, but I feel like a whole heap of that go on. I feel like enough of that go on. And it is not a good look at all. But, like I said, the time is coming. The constitutional draft is just about complete. So we are going to get back into talking about second gear. Right? We started phase 1. Phase 1 is just about done. So on Wednesday, we're not going to have a Monday live. On Wednesday, we're going to unveil the new constitutional draft. And from there, we will take a look at what it is to come down the pipes. Because as we know, what is going on right now is not sustainable. These measures that are being taken by the agents of the government is not sustainable. It is not fair. And it is certainly not lawful, because if we look at any of these legislations, they can certainly not pass a complete constitutional scrutiny. Absolutely not. And once a law violates a guarantee, a protection, or a restriction of the Constitution, it cannot go forward. All of these things were supposed to have been looked into before they passed these laws. So all of this has been arbitrary enforcement of we don't know what. Right? And when we look at the fact that simply, for example, let's say someone don't stop at a stop sign. They don't come to a complete stop at a stop sign. And now you have a classification. You get a ticket. Now you are labeled as having committed a crime. You have to wonder, how does this fall into criminal law when this is a civil matter? Because nobody is injured, no property is injured, nobody made a complaint. It is just the constable saying that I witnessed you not stopping. You don't have a dash cam, so you can't even prove it. Right? So, how does this meet the criteria for a crime? There is no person that was injured or affected. There is no property that was damaged. There is no body of the crime to show evidence. There is no way that you can prove that this individual intended to cause an intentional act against the people or the public or the government. So how it become a crime? There is no way you can formulate any of this and make it into a crime. It just don't make any sense. Right? But when we have all of these things written in a language that we don't understand, when we have the courts that allow these attorneys to come in there and start arguing cases, it doesn't matter what, then come in there and argue. As long as them argue it good and then prove them point, then that's it. That's all is needed. It has nothing to do with law. It has everything to do with common law and, you know, all of these other like intricate foolishness. It has nothing to do with protecting your rights or, you know, vindicating people. Instead of the state proving that you committed a crime, you are now having to defend against something that was not proven just yet. So that means that you are not considered innocent until proven guilty. You are being considered guilty and you have to prove the reverse. You have to now prove your innocence. The government said they need billions from motors. All that is, anyways, never got to talk about that. Alright, I can't really mention the other part yet. But on Wednesday, I'm going to share even some more troubling details in regards to all of this. But in summary, we have covered the demerit point system and the many different remedies that one can use to combat such atrocity. Right? It can be extortion, yes, but it all depends on how you perceive it. So we're going to start bringing up those who want to come in the box. If you have a question, you can now request to come up in the box and we can have a quick discussion. So no, he does not tell what he's going to use the money to do. Look at the road. Willie, evening. Mr. Willie, you there? Alright, look like Mr. Willie not ready yet. I know he does not tell what he's going to use the money to do. Look at the roads. Of course, they're not going to tell us what the they're going to use the money. Even if they tell us what they're going to use the money to do, that doesn't mean they're going to use it to do that. Right? So if you have a question, you can tap into the box and we can have a quick discussion. Charlene, Lawful, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening.
Yes, I was a bit busy this evening, so I was not in all of the discussion. But what I want to ask is, I have heard that there you can be issued a ticket for driving too slow. But I'm asking, what is slow? What is too slow? What's the limit? So, because I don't know.
I think there is a minimum speed on the highway, right? Or if you're causing blockage of traffic. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. This was what the road traffic regulation.
Okay.
Minimum speed. That one. It's a minimum speed 50
50?
on it's a in toll speed limit areas. So minimum speed is 50.
So if you're going anything below 50, you can be ticketed.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your information. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Yeah,
And we
man.
do
Thank you.
appreciate you. All right.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Oh, another thing I was gonna ask about yes, they also say that you can be charged for using a device. But what I saw someone was talking about was that they had it on that was the thing that the holder thing. And still got a ticket for it. So I don't understand how that works, because I remember getting a ticket with my phone in my hand, and the policeman says I could get a hands-free thing and put it in the car.
Right.
So I don't know. And this lady got a ticket for having it on the hands-free thing.
I saw that video. A couple of people sent it to me. See, the problem is anyone can say anything. And if she had it on the holder, maybe she doesn't have a dash cam, so she don't have any evidence to show that she did not have it in her hand. But if she have the holder and she wasn't recording and she wasn't doing anything to capture evidence, you're most likely you're going to court.
Nobody's not gonna listen to her.
Right. That's the problem. So that's why I always say, get a dash cam.
Yes, and I said, do they accept evidence from the dash cam? The courts, do they do that? Okay, all right. I'm definitely getting my dash cam, because I'm not gonna let this thing pass like that. All right. Thanks for your time, though.
Yeah, man. You're most welcome.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. So, my son was issued a ticket for not yield, even though his dash cam saw him stop behind the vehicle. Again, if you have your dash cam footage, you can bring it to court, and after the constable provides his evidence, you can now alert the court that you have counter evidence or contradicting evidence in relation to the incident. Right? Why do we have to present evidence, not the police? This is why we say come to class. It is not a matter of you have to present evidence. The problem is the constable is first going to come with a witness statement, and it is going to be considered very likely some form of evidence, right? If you don't have nothing and your story don't match up more credible than the constable, then the court is going to take the constable's word for it in many cases. So what I have said over the past year and a half is what? Get a dash cam. If you can prove that the constable is lying, then obviously the ticket has to be thrown out. And in many cases, the only way you can prove that is what's called objective evidence. Not what me say, not what him say, not what you say. It is what the situational evidence shows. So it is not a matter of you have to present evidence. It is just how the courts are being run right now. You still have to contest the charge. We are being told once it is in your line of sight, you will still be ticketed. What is in your line of sight? Yeah, man, respect Curious, Lawful. He had been in court 3 times already and a new date 4 times from work, waste of time. Self one. So we are being told that once it is in our line of sight, you will be ticketed. There is no such thing. They can tell you what they want, you know. The police can say whatever they want. That doesn't mean it's true. Just like the attorneys can tell you whatever they want. That doesn't mean it's true. This is why it is important to learn what the law says. Don't even believe me. Go and look it up for yourself. For example, let us look up, I think it's hands-free. I think they call it what? Distracted driving. That is what they put on the ticket. So that would be in the Road Traffic Act. I'm gonna bring it up. All right. So here we have, let us bring up this section. All right. Section 121 of the Road Traffic Act of 2018. It says, a person shall not drive or operate a vehicle on a road while using an electronic communication device except where used in hands-free mode, right? So regardless of where the thing is placed in the vehicle or in the car, as long as it is in hands-free mode, meaning you're not touching it, right, while you're traveling, then you cannot get a ticket for it. The constable can say whatever he wants, but at the end of the day, it is what the law says. Section 2 of 121 says, a person who is in or on a vehicle in the capacity as an instructor shall not hold or use electronic communication devices while the person is instructing her. So a person shall not use a wireless communication device or electronic communication device to view, send, or compose an electronic message while driving on a road. A person who contravenes section 1, 2, or 3 commits an offense. Subsection 1 shall not apply to a person driving or operating a vehicle while the vehicle is being used as an emergency vehicle. So, police and emergency vehicles are exempt. Section 1, 2, and 3 shall not apply where the vehicle is off the road or is lawfully parked on a road, is not in motion or not impeding traffic. In this section, electronic communication device means a mobile telephone or other handheld electronic device that includes a telephone or other telecommunication function other than a two-way radio. right? All right. I had seen like someone. Okay. So we don't have any more questions. Let's see. So I've been in court 3 times already and new date 4th time, waste of time. Again, waste of time because you don't know what to do. If you knew how to proceed in court, it would not have been all of that foolishness. This is why we say what? Come to class. When you learn better, you do better, and you stop wasting time. I joined up and don't remember my password. I wanted to check out all previous classes. Curious, from last year, you're supposed to get on the computer or on your phone and get things sorted out. I told you to message me, and I didn't hear back from you. I think I got one message at one point, but the classes are there, signatories are there, everybody is there doing what they need to do. Greetings, Demos. Lawful welcome. All right. We're making reference to 2 different things. If the mount is on the windscreen, learn this in court. All right, this is the other thing, people. It is what you argue. It is what you present as an authority. It is how you present your case. Regardless of what they say in court, they have to point to the law. If you don't insist on the law, then the court is going to take the opinions of the other person. There is absolutely no way they can come up with things that the law says. The law is static. It doesn't change. So, for example, it says a person shall not drive or operate a vehicle on a road while using an electronic communication device, except where used in hands-free mode. Right? So if you have the thing stick on the windscreen, or you have it on the dashboard, or you have it somewhere else, it does not matter. It is in hands-free mode. So if you are in court, and for example, someone is telling you, or the constable or the judge is telling you, no, it's not supposed to do that. So show me the provision in law that supports what you're saying. Where does the law say that, Your Honor? Did you know that judges cannot be ambiguous? They have to be specific, especially if they're going to reference something in law. Then can't tell us, say, well, it's in the Road Traffic Act. Well, I don't know which section, but I know so it say. No. Respectfully, Your Honor, can you please direct me to which section of the law you are referring to? Your Honor, are you saying that your opinions are above the law? Very simple. You don't need to argue. You don't need to be back and forth. You don't need to be belligerent and all them something there. You just ask some simple questions. Right? What about eating while driving? What about it? You have to find out what is the charge on the ticket. What is the charge on the ticket? Then you go and look up the law as it applies to that charge. Driving while eating is not an offense. There is no such thing as eating. There's something called distracted driving. Seating capacity. There's nothing here about eating while driving. Are you prosecuting the case, or is it the prosecution? Exactly. Who is prosecuting the case, Your Honor? I just want to make sure that I'm directing my questions to the correct party. I agree, but she was really aggressive. She said section 63, but that refers to tint, so I was at a loss. Section 63. Let us look it up in Road Traffic Act and Regulations. Section 63, 53, 63. A person convicted of manslaughter Okay, we know that does not apply in this case, right? Section 63 for the regulations. 65, 64, and 63. Maintenance of transparent material has nothing to do with hands-free devices. So whatever legislation, again, people, if you're in court and the judge is being, let's say, very angry in tone and in speaking, right? And I say, listen, you have to know the law if you are coming here come contest ticket. Don't come in here come ask all of these questions and delaying the proceeding and blah blah blah. You just ask, you continue to ask simple questions. You don't match tone. You're not trying to square up with the judge. But you have a right to ask questions. You say, Your Honor, you are speaking in a language which I don't understand, and that is a violation of the Constitution. I need clarity as it relates to any accusation. Right? Isn't that what it says? Let us go back to the charter. Right? Section 16. Right? Right to due process. Section 16.6. See it up on your screen? Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be informed as soon as is practicable, as is reasonably practicable, in a language which he understands, and of the nature of the charge. What does the nature mean? Every single thing related to what they are accusing you of. So, if a judge fling out big words and start to argue or start to, as you would say, curse you out intelligently, you say, Your Honor, does the Constitution and the protections apply in this court? Simple. You're not argue. You don't need to argue. This is why we say come to class. If you're a signatory, you already know better. So these, them things you don't know already. But if you're a regular individual, you don't go in there trying to prove anything. You are not on trial. Anytime you go into a court and you are answering to the charges, it's not really you answering to any charge. You are basically there to contest it. So the evidence must be provided first. So if you demand the evidence be provided, or if you demand that if someone is laying an accusation, for example, if the judge say, Section 63 of the Act, tell you say you're not supposed to eat and drive. You say, respectfully, Your Honor, Section 63 of what Act? Can you please be specific? You don't make them run away with that. You don't let it just slide. It don't matter how harsh or how stern they are talking. You ask if you don't have any rights, Your Honor. I don't have any rights in here. Why are you speaking to me in this derogatory way? Why are you bringing out your frustrations in this case? Very simple. You don't go in there saying, Judge, you can't talk to me, so me no pitney. No, you ask them a question. Anything what you say, you try ask them a question. Alright? They will say all manner of things just to stop you from asking about the law. It happens. Yeah, of course, you're going to try to distract you, but that should keep your mind focused. Do you think it is fair for you to get a ticket for no backlight and also lose points for that? Well, whether it's fair or not, again, if you get a ticket, you can't argue in hindsight. You just have to look forward and you figure out how you're going to challenge the ticket. Because at this point, it doesn't even matter where you get the ticket for. You just know, say, if you don't challenge it, points are come off. Points are adding up. Let me say that. If you don't challenge your ticket, even if you pay it, points get added to your driving record. The points are not added to your license. It is added to your driving record. Right? And again, if you are only the license holder, right? You are only the license holder. So where is the license owner? Where is the owner? And how can you be a holder and still be liable for the licensed property? That don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. So, if you don't ask questions, you are always at a disadvantage. Think about it. When an attorney is in court, are they telling people anything? Look at it for yourself. If you're in court and you ever hear an attorney, a matter of fact, it doesn't even matter if you listen to, the fictional courts on TV or if you're going to a regular court. Listen to an attorney speaking. Most of what the attorney is doing is asking questions. Most of what the attorney does is asking very good questions. It is not they're telling them what they do and what them supposed to do and what they not do and how them do this and then no one admit to it. No. They ask very good questions. They know how to formulate their questions. They know how to put everything in question form. Because the object of court is to allow someone to admit to something. It is not to tell them what they do. It is for them to basically tell on themselves. That is the goal of examination and cross-examination. It is not necessarily for you to be telling anyone anything. The same thing with the judge. You don't tell the judge anything. You go in there and you ask questions. And if the judge don't want to answer, you say, Your Honor, just let it be known for the record that I don't understand anything that you just said. You are not speaking in a language which I understand. And I'm going to accept that you decide that you're going to violate my rights that are recognized by the Constitution. And you ask the clerk to make sure it is on the record. The clerk is also supposed to be making notes, making record. They are the official stenographer for the court. They are supposed to be making a record of all that happens during the case. If everybody challenged their ticket, the court is going to be overwhelmed. Well, what choice do you have now? If you decide to appeal the judge's decision regarding ticket, will demerit points be applied? No. The ruling is going to be there is typically an automatic injunction or a stoppage of the enforcement of the order until the appeal is heard. Now, what is interesting is this. You have to realize when you say appeal, you have to look at the rules for appeal. You have to know what can be appealed and why. You can't just decide, say, may I go appeal this? I don't like the decision. Yeah. That's not how appeals work. You cannot appeal a ruling just like that. You have to state some kind of claim. For example, let's say we go to traffic court, right? And the judge say, me not believe that video evidence there. That look like AI. That look like something where you edit. Me not believe that is proper evidence. You say, okay, judge, are you acting as prosecution in this case? Judge say, well, however way you want to take it, sir, that is not going to fly in this court. And this case, I am going to rule that you are liable in this case and you need to pay the fee. Okay, Your Honor. I am hereby putting the court on notice that I am appealing this case, and I would want to ensure that an injunction is put in place so that I can have this case heard by the Court of Appeals. By stating that in the proceeding and directing the clerk to make sure that she have a record of that, now the enforcement has to stop. It now has to go for judicial review to the Court of Appeals. So now, my claim to the Court of Appeals is one, a violation of my constitutionally protected rights. Constitutionally protected rights, not constitutional rights. My right to a fair hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal or court was violated. I presented evidence and the evidence was not considered properly. How does the judge determine whether or not something is AI? They would have to take the evidence and have it expert inspected. You can look on something in this day and age and tell if it's AI or not. There are so many videos out there that show that there is no way for you to just look at something and say, that is AI. That is edited. That is this, that is that. So, these are the premises, these are the things that you can appeal. You can't just appeal, say, the judge unfair. That is not an appealable thing. That is not something you can use as an appeal avenue. So, that is just an example. You can't just appeal a case just because you lose. You have to appeal it on the grounds of some violation. Whether it be an omission, whether it be an action, whether it be, disregard for the law, something, procedural error, etc. Pay for the ticket twice. If you pay for the ticket twice, then you have a right to get one of the refunds back. But again, pay for the ticket, so your points are still going to be added. Should ask for a copy of the record, right? After you ask for it to be on the record. No, they're not going to necessarily give you a copy of the record right away. They're going to tell you to come back. So you demand that it be written on the record. You direct the clerk. Clerk, on and for the record, please ensure that you have just recorded the fact that the judge has made an evidence decision without an expert. Right? However, whatever happened, I'm just giving an example. Right? But you have to challenge these things. If you don't challenge them, then they're going to just run over you. It is just process and procedure at that point. Oh, when I believe you. All right. Go down, let's go pay. Have a good day. Right? And they keep on running the mill. Appeal also needs to be based on arguments made during trial. Shouldn't be new argument. That is true if you are arguing merits. Meaning, if you are arguing about things that happen in the case, that is true. However, you can also argue that your rights were violated. That is, you don't require, you're not required to state that this was argued during the case when you talk about a right being violated or a procedural error or whatever the case may be. So that is only one avenue of about 6. You have jurisdictional objections, you have authority objections, you have chain of custody objections, you have plenty different things that you can appeal. You have constitutional violations, you have legal insufficiency, a lot of different things. Spanish Town now offers outcome letters on the day the matter is disposed. Okay, good. Good. That means as soon as the case is finished, you can get some confirmation in writing. Can you appeal after 14 days? I think the appellate window is either 20 or 30 days. I don't think it's 14. I think it's... I would have to look it up. I would have to look it up. Do I have that doc here? No, I don't have that document in front of me, but there is there are appellate rules that tells you exactly how long you have to appeal a case. But I don't have that specific document in front of me right now. Let's see over here. So no. So notice of intent to appeal is required within 14 days. Okay. But again, you can do an oral motion. It doesn't necessarily need to be in writing. I'll make sure I confirm that. I'll make sure I confirm it. But I know you can make a motion in open court as it relates to making an appeal. TikTok police, lawful, greetings, even though we're wrapping up right now. So, you know, again, we covered quite a few things. We covered the demerit point system and the different remedies that you can possibly use. You can challenge many things, but at this point, you don't necessarily have a choice. If you even choose to pay the ticket, your points are still going to be added. That is a major thing. But again, it is all discrimination. Because if they don't penalize everyone from 2018 until now, it is unlawful for them to just now start penalizing people. Because all of those people broke the law. You can't choose who to prosecute and who not to. Right? So it is a discriminatory law, and it is going to create an ex post facto situation where you are retroactively applying the law to people. And that is not something that is, I guess you can say, legally sufficient in current times. All right, so I hope that was informational and educational for those who took notes and listened and plan to do something about it. And on Wednesday, we will proceed with the new constitutional draft so that we can uncover stage 2 on what we plan to do going forward regarding our constitution. All right? So big up on yourself, and I'll see you on Wednesday. Lawful, always. Good night.